hard to believe that this is actually my last Pastor's Corner with you before I head off on maternity leave beginning next week. And I know that I've mentioned to you a couple of times that recommending books is one of my love languages. I love reading and talking about books. So in order of that, and because I love you, I thought I would end by talking about a book. Now, this is a book that I no longer own, but I wish I did. I owned it once. And I read it maybe 13 or 14 years ago when I was taking a sociology class at Trent University. And it's called The Rise of Christianity by Rodney Stark. This is a book that's bringing me a lot of inspiration right now. And I hope that when I tell you a little bit about it, it will inspire you as well. So in The Rise of Christianity, the author, Rodney Stark, is theorizing a little bit about how Christianity grew so quickly from being this obscure little Jewish sect to being the dominant religion of the Roman Empire, and then eventually the most practiced religion in the world. And Stark is putting forth some theories about how or why this might have happened. And believe it or not, plagues like the one we're living in right now, according to Stark, may have had something to do with it. Now, this is my first plague. I'm willing to bet it's probably your first plague as well. But in earlier times, before vaccines, before good sanitation, before modern medicine, plagues were actually quite a common occurrence, especially in cities where people lived really close together, and it wasn't as easy to kind of stop the transmission. And Stark is theorizing in his book that in the earliest days of Christianity, the church began to grow partially because of these plagues. Because, get this, early Christians actually did the stuff that Jesus taught them to do. Specifically, they loved their neighbors as themselves in the face of epidemics and plagues. They didn't abandon their sick family members, first of all, and that was a big deal. When you're facing a plague, if you could get out of the city, you got out. If you had somewhere else to go, you went there. And if you left some family members behind, well, you know, too bad for them. But Christians, these early followers of Jesus, very peculiarly, is that a word? Peculiarly? Anyway, it was strange, but they didn't do it. They stayed and cared for their sick family members. And it was amazing how many people actually recovered from illnesses just by having that basic level of care and nursing. And not only that, but often these Christians would care for other people, pagans who'd been abandoned by their own families. And as these pagans were witnessing the love of these Christians, they were intrigued, and many of them ended up choosing to follow Jesus as well. In other words, these early Christians shone brightly with the light of Christ, even during terrible times. You know, the author of the book of Hebrews encourages his congregation to persevere by reminding them that they're surrounded by what he calls a great cloud of witnesses, that there are all these men and women who have followed Jesus before them. And when I think about our experience right now in the middle of COVID, I kind of picture these early Christians from the 1st and 2nd and 3rd centuries kind of being part of our great cloud of witnesses and cheering us on as we follow Jesus into the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is our first plague, my first plague, definitely, but it's not by any stretch the first plague that the church has ever faced. Run with perseverance the race marked out for you. That's what the author of Hebrews encourages us to do. We don't know when this race will end, but God knows, and God hasn't abandoned us, and He won't ever. Has it been a tough spring and a tough summer and a tough fall? Yeah, it has. Are we in for a tough winter? Probably. It's going to be hard. But you know what? We can do hard things not because of ourselves, but because of who God is. And because who God is doesn't change. We can shine brightly for Christ even now. As we look to Advent and Christmas, definitely a very different sort of Advent and Christmas than we've ever had before. But this is one of our favorite Christmas scriptures, right? The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not put it out. We can keep on living for God, keep on loving God and loving people in the middle of a pandemic. We can keep praying and trusting even when everything feels out of control. We can keep on believing and declaring that God is good even when it feels like that's not true, because it is true. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not put it out. I have full confidence in our elders team and in Ruth Ann. And while I'm sorry to be kind of abandoning you when the world is so messed up still, well, first of all, I don't want to stay pregnant forever. And secondly, I just know that God is going ahead of us into what comes next. God can be trusted. God is as good as He's ever been. And you've got some really great leaders, really godly leaders at the table as well. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just having a baby. So once that baby's born, I'm sure that you'll see me, you'll see my family, and we will enjoy worshiping together, whether that's online or that's in person. Take care, friends. Keep on shining bright. See you soon.